One word, two syllables. Ridiculous, right?
Boom, boom, boom. Welcome, everybody, to the Unfiltered Truth. I'm your host, Phil Robinson. I got a special guest for y'all today. Y'all know this man. But before we get into the introduction with this man, we are waiting on the all immortal Chocolate Drop. Chocolate Drop is supposed to be with us. One day he may actually show up, but you know it's not fabulous unless Phil is showing up late. So we'll wait to see. Hopefully he'll make it in while we still got the guests going. But without further ado, got a man whose acquaintance I just got to make personally, but we've crossed paths in terms of work and admired each other's work from a distance. So I'd like to welcome site expert for Vegas Sports Today, Mr. Mike Dixon. Mike, what's happening, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing well, Phil, man. Thank you for having me on. And how are you?
I am doing well. Honest and truthfully, I'm doing the best that I've been in a while. I wasn't as enthused at the beginning. I was pretty juiced about the beginning of the season, but not like I am right now.
I totally understand.
I just feel like I've gotten my second win. Said this is fun again. There's change. You feel it. This is different. We've seen a lot of change, a lot of turnover, much that you can attest to because you're in the locker room on a daily basis. It just feels different.
Absolutely. I can tell you this. One of our reporters, Sean Zattel, at Vegas Sports Today, he was there for that transition from Josh McDaniels to Antonio Pierce. Not only was the press conference energetic, a lot of rah-rah amongst Champ Kelly and Antonio Pierce, but also you had a moment inside that locker room where it felt like very happy and festive. Players were very loose in terms of playing basketball amongst each other inside that locker room, something the boss, Josh McDaniels, wouldn't allow. So bringing a guy like Antonio Pierce to change that culture, it's great for players. It's great for the fan base. It's even great for the Raiders' social media because if you notice this, Phil, did you see what they produced yesterday on their social media channel? They basically said it's the Patriot way has ended. Now it's the Raider way. Did you see that, Phil?
That was the most. I have been outspoken against the Raiders, almost borderline on a crusade against the Raiders social media team for the last couple years, and the flatness of all of their creations and how un-Raider like it is. And you just look at it, it's like, God, who's in charge of it? Like, who keeps putting this shit out? It'd be better if you did nothing at all. That's not Raider stuff. That's dry. That was the most beautiful Raider thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Ironically, Phil, they did transition the social media team for the Raiders too, so you can add that to a part of the transition.
Best acquisition they've made yet, at bar none. I don't care what happens, win or lose. If your social media team is putting that quality of stuff out, you are winning. That got everybody hyped.
It has me as a media member really hyped, excited, and also a football fan. In my local market in Las Vegas, because that did give me a sense of the classic, iconic silver and black personality that they displayed on TV and press conferences for years. So that little spark of energy it's gonna give this city, it's gonna give this team, the fan base, something to be excited about for the remainder of the season?
That I think so. I'll be blunt about it because that's how I roll. I think this has the potential to be a 2021 type situation here
Mm.
because there is Antonio, and you can back me up on this, even take the lead. Antonio Pierce received unanimous support from his players in becoming the interim head coach. And I've said this on numerous podcasts, and I'll say it on this one again. To me, the team should always pick its leaders. They should pick their captains. They should pick their leaders because they are the ones that have to follow their directions. They have to execute. They have to look towards that person to lead them. And if every person on the team look to AP and says, "We will follow him. We will run through a brick wall for this man. We will do whatever this man asks us to do, no matter what, to the best of our abilities," then we've already won. There's a ton of talent on this team that is laid dormant by for whatever situation, circumstance, or reason. But but for them to be properly motivated, playing for each other, playing to have fun, because nobody has fun when you lose it.
I agree completely. I mean, that was a spot on analysis, Phil. And just to put it in simple terms, for people who are listening or watching right now, I can tell you this. There's a lot of people who work in hospitality or construction in different industries, right? And let me ask you this. Have you ever worked for a job and you just like regretted just taking this job because a certain manager, was in charge? And you're like, ah, dang it, man. Like, okay, I'm happy. I'm done with my shift. But now you have to go to work again tomorrow to show up for somebody you don't want to work for in comparison to a guy, let's say on a construction site, for example, a foreman or a supervisor or a manager. You know, hey, guys, you've been here since 7 a.m. Um, Go ahead, take a 20-minute break. By the way, I bought you coffee, I bought you breakfast, bought you donuts. You know, it's those little small details and little subtle things like that that shows leadership instead of a demanding boss like Josh McDaniel was. And and that's exactly how it was in press conferences. You know, and I would say 95% of the media, if not 90%, when just Josh McDaniels had an opportunity to at the post game press conferences, three members would show up out of maybe 15, 20, because he wouldn't give us much. So
Mm-hmm.
we would step into that locker room. And this is no knock on Josh McDaniels as a I won't say it's this is unfiltered truth. So let's keep it real. No,
Yeah.
I wasn't excited to go into any fucking press conference, man. I'll say that because he's going to give you exactly. We didn't execute well. We got to play better, and the same old thing every freaking time. And it wears you down after a while.
It's so the question. So the since this is unfiltered truth, we're gonna keep it a buck here. So the question that I would have is: does anybody change the type of questions that they're asking him? Do they stop asking him questions where he can give those vague answers?
Well, we can ask to answer your question. One, yes. I'll tip my hat to Hondo Carpenter. He doesn't hold
Mm-hmm.
back. Excuse me. He's very direct.
Mm-hmm.
Benny Bonsiora, he asked the same question in a different way, just to
Mm-hmm.
see if he can get a different answer out of Josh McDaniels. But the truth of the is, it's McDaniels. It's really McDaniels. For comparison's sake, right? I was with the John Gruden camp covering for a short period of time during the pandemic, but John Gruden, he did not hold back. Mike Mayock, he did not hold back. He was very colorful. He was very honest and blunt. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really on the head coach. So it's on the personality. It's on the character. So, you know, that's why John Gruden was a media darling. But it's not to be a media darling. It's to be a head coach, a leader, to execute your plays, calling on the field. And it's doing your job. It's so many different levels to being a head coach, as you know, Phil. But
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot to open up about Josh McDaniels and what I think his small tenure was here with in Las Vegas for a season and a half.
Well, please enlighten us. Share all the details. I've been trying my hardest to get behind the scenes and get into headquarters. Now, obviously, I don't live in Vegas, and so they refuse to give me passes to come up during training camp. So it kind of is what it is.
Now I can tell you this, Bill Belichick, right? He doesn't really like to speak to the media. Hey, we're moving on to Cincinnati, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
he and listen, I have tremendous respect for the Raiders PR team. This is not an ass kissing moment here or anything. I just want to say this: he would Josh McDaniels would take that Bill Belichick approach and try to limit the amount of media members in there. So John Gruden actually had as many people as possible in terms of media inside his
Hmm.
facility at that headquarters. So, and just to enlighten you as well, there was the mood was different today at practice. Normally would have a 5 minute photo and video restriction. Um, but we would have to sit out there for normally would sit out there for an hour and a half inside the press conference until we left the practice field and get
Hmm.
5 minutes of video. Antonio Pierce allowed media 10 to 15 minutes today to capture photos and videos. So it's just like I said, those small things, man, they're changing, and it may go a different way whether Antonio Pierce or Champ Kelly remains the head coach or general manager for the Las Vegas Raiders.
You said they switched the social media team. Who's directing the social media team? That still falls under KISS, right?
So I do not know 100% who's behind the social media team, but I did know I do know that a few people decided to move on to a different opportunities in Los Angeles and elsewhere. So I just know there's new video guys, new social media guys. So I'm still
Hmm.
getting to know them. They just started. I say a good 2 months ago. Young kids, young kids.
Okay, I can get. I'll find out some more information on that.
I think
Good
Delaney
to
was the
also
last
good to know.
videographer in social. I'm sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying because I was thinking as you said that I was like, okay, so you this is a massive PR campaign. I'm just watching it all unfold, and it's unlike what I've managed to see from Kiss before or anybody else. So I was just curious as to who was pulling the strings on it because whoever it is that's pulling the strings is hitting the right ones one after another.
I agree with that. I would say Will Kiss has some influence
Mm-hmm.
um, on the social media team. I the percentage of it I don't know, but Will's a good guy. I do respect him, and I'm pretty sure he'll give you an opportunity sooner or later once you actually make it back to Las Vegas. So, and if not, you definitely could be one of our guests. You and the Raider
Uh,
Ramble. That's on
hey,
the
that's
record,
awesome.
okay? Because
Hey,
we
I
like
would
what
never
you
say
guys do
anything.
there, man. We like what you do. Actually, in
Thank
fact,
you.
we love what you do. From your articles to your shows to social media. You guys are very in tune with Raider Nation.
I give all credit to Hefe, Mario Tovar. Me and him go all the way back to the creation of the Raider Ram, way back in 2016 when it was just me, him, a our dear favorite train wreck, and Carlos,
Wow. The original
the
seven, huh?
original four,
Oh, four. Correction, my
the
bad.
original four.
Look what you guys turned that into. Uh, if not top top three, I believe it's the top three website and news media outlet for the Raiders. Last I checked, the Raider
Well, that
Ramble,
a lot
the
of hard
Raider
work,
Ramble. Yeah,
a lot of hard work,
and that's what I
but
say,
that's
man. I,
what's
I
up.
respect you guys, man. You guys put in a lot of hard work and effort um, through. Was it that the Senior Bowl or was that East and West Shrine Bowl that you all made out to Las Vegas? Is that right?
I believe it was the East West Shrine Bowl, the one that was
Man,
at Allegiant, and then I think the NFLPA too, or was that
yeah.
something different?
No, East West Shrine Bowl. You guys, and it's around the same time. you guys knocked it out of the park. I know Mario did a great job, and everyone else, meeting Dave Ziegler down on the field, having the conversation with him, getting to know him, and producing the content and the articles so fast and professional. That's why I'm like, it's never an issue to collaborate and communicate with you guys. Sorry, so I'm outside right now in Seattle, Washington, visiting some friends and take care of business.
Well, you got to watch out where you're at because you hit them sirens, then that blurp, and I got to tell you, I almost jumped out of my couch and ran away because I got warrants. But
Well, the good news is we had a medic nearby, but the bad news is you're too far.
you have to excuse me. I'm pleading the fifth on my way out.
Oh man,
That's awesome.
yeah,
But
that's
no,
great.
but lighter things. I mean, listen, Antonio Pierce won a press conference. In fact, I would say that was the most Raider speak I've heard in a long time. And I just had an article published week before last, detailing some of the shortcomings over the course of the history of the Raiders in terms of why it is that they haven't been able to get right. And one of the key issues that I brought up is the fact that they lost their own identity.
Yes.
For the last 20 something years, the Raiders have been trying to be somebody other than the Raiders and call it the Raiders. You've watched Kansas City rise to fame, rise to power, playing Raider style football. Andy Reid has come out and said that straight up that he was adopting what Al did and a lot of his principles and technique and teachings. Excuse me.
Man, L. Davis is a pioneer. Rest in peace, Mr. Davis. And he changed the landscape of, like you said, the NFL, man, and that AFC West, but let alone the Las Vegas Raiders. And to piggyback what you said about Andy Reid, he absolutely turned that Kansas City Chiefs franchise around. With guys like Trent Green and Alex Smith, doing a good enough job just to stay somewhat relevant, in that NFL. But once he lost that position with the Philadelphia Eagles, and he had that time off to recuperate, and like you said, just to look at L. Davis's principles and really handpicking, guys like Patrick Mahomes, and that's what I want to say real quick, if you don't mind me going off for a moment. Do you feel?
Oh, please, by all means, make sure you include Taylor Swift being played at the Chiefs practice now because she's a everyday staple.
Yes,
'Cause
man.
that's where we're at, and lo and behold, the moment she's not around, they lose football games.
The Taylor Swift curse is active. That's
If only it struck like Drake's.
hey, that's what the Raiders that's what the Raiders need, man. They need a superstar wife to go for I'm sorry, girlfriend to go for Michael Mayer or Josh Jacobs. What's going on, man? I mean, it's Las Vegas with plenty of celebrities walking around, musical talent. Who do we need in the house? Beyonce's taken, Rihanna's taken. You got anybody you can throw out there a
Uh,
pitch that's
look,
a
look,
beautiful
bruh,
single?
I'm taking. I don't be out there in the market like that.
Hey, it's worth a shot. We don't know, man. We'll figure it out. We need our
I was
Taylor
like,
Swift in Las Vegas, man.
yeah, or at least some. That's not a Raider thing. You don't need Taylor Swift out there. You need something like Raw Digger. That's some Raider shit right there. The roughneck.
Hey, wow. Rod Digger. I haven't heard that in a while, man. I love me some Rod Digger. Buster
Yeah,
Rhymes. Wow. But yeah, man, to get back to what we were talking about, got a little off track here. My bad. Uh, Phil,
this
we got to
fool's.
give.
I'm sorry. Raiders resistance works for you, right? Or work
Yes,
with you?
absolutely.
Yeah, this
Yes.
fool
One of
is
my.
in my comment section with some bullshit talking about we need Celine Dion and Mayer to be the
uh, well, see, Celine Dion is Las Vegas resident musical talent. So there's that. He's on to something, but now she's too old.
Nah. No.
Oh man. And shout out to my guy Louis Mayoga, Raiders Resistance. Man, one of the most talented producers, writers, multimedia journalists. He's amazing. One thing I would like to say is the content that's being produced now, whether it's on YouTube or social media, Twitter, that's Lewis right now producing the most dynamic images and videos that's out. So shout out Lewis and thank you for listening.
Lewis has a different name. We don't call Lewis by Lewis. We call Lewis Prez. And
Too late,
actually,
he's been exposed.
Lewis calls me Uncle Phil. Lewis has done a lot of work for me. In fact, Lewis is responsible for every single one of my intro videos, except for maybe two. This one and then another one of the ones from the beginning. So
Man,
I've constantly been done my best to try to put him on.
man, Lewis. I'm sorry, Prez.
Prez.
You corrected me. You corrected me, and my apologies, man.
Yeah.
Talented, man. That's a natural talented guy, man. So I'm happy that he's a part of the team. We work together. Um, we got some big things in the works, so you guys stay tuned. But I want to take it back.
Let's get
Um,
back then. Let's
listen,
get to the business at hand.
we mentioned Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, right? So we know the Raiders, Dave Ziegler drafted Aiden O'Connell because they wanted him to fit that Patriot way system. You signed him to a 4-year contract. Um, you want to see what he can produce this season. You got 8, 9 games left. See what you get out of the rookie, and if he shows some flashes, some promise, you hold him, you reserve him. You just don't want to cut ties because you don't know if Champ Kelly and Antonio Pierce is going to last this season or next or they'll be here next season. You don't know. So, there's some guys you hold over like a Devontae Adams and a Max Crosby. Those are a given. But you still want to give O'Connell a shot. But to take it back, Phil, I'm sorry I said that twice in 5 minutes. You got to find your Patrick Mahomes. You cannot win games. You cannot win games unless you can find a quarterback that can compete. And you got to find him he has to be flexible, interchangeable. And I'm serious for every system. And then after that, you find that right head coach. For me, I like what Mike McDaniels did. He came over from San Francisco. So he called the plays, he designed the plays, he had a lot of say in that San Francisco offense as a run game coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you're looking for with the Raiders. Who had a lot of decisions and who designed game plans and who came up with different schemes. You guys, what's the Patriot way? Do your job. You know what? Mark Davis, before you hire someone else to do their job, make sure they know their job so they can do their jobs and the players can execute on the field.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up for a couple of different reasons. Mark when I don't know if he was sitting with Paul exclusively or he was sitting with Paul, Vinny, and Vic and the whole assortment talking about deciding to make the move. He said that he's going to go about this with an open mind, that he's going to give them a fair shot, but more importantly, he's not going to have all the old people or all the other people that have previously been in his ear trying to advise him on what to do in his ear, so that his decision making was not influenced. So what that tells me is that some of the people, and I'm not going to mention any names, who were advising him were pushing him in that direction, whether he wanted to go there or not. There was an opportunity at the end of 2021 for him to hire the leader that his team chose, and instead he went a different direction. This time he did. Now, will he keep him? As you said, remains to be seen, and that's going to require Pierce to start winning. That's going to require Champ to continue to bring in quality talent. that means that Jalen Smith needs to come in and tear some shit up so that it can be like, oh, if we could have did this a long time ago, because I'm pretty sure we had this guy on the roster before and he didn't
He's getting the
stay.
most out of him. Yep.
He never saw the field, if I recall correctly, him or Michael Walker.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're referring to Jalen Smith. I'm sorry. I was just thinking about you know, a head coach getting the most out of his players, like you mentioned earlier. So, I'm sorry I cut you off.
Yeah, so these are guys who have been previously brought in, who the Raiders took a look at, had on the practice squad for a couple weeks, and then for some ungodly reason, they were let go. Now, granted, the linebacker play between Spillane and Diablo has been leaps and bounds better than anything I had hoped to get out of it.
Yes. If only
So
Divine can stay healthy, he can do a lot of things on the field. And I agree with that. Spillane has just been an absolute quiet leader from what I've noticed inside that locker room. He's not very a vocal guy. He's very quiet, but when he's on that field, man, you can see him just pointing and directing and getting his guys in the right position. So you're absolutely right about that, Phil.
I am it's been amazing because I'd written another article about how this was the only position group I've ever seen that only had one drafted linebacker. I was like, this team continues to ignore probably one of the most important levels and player types on the field on defense, and wonder why they continue to have the same problems defending running backs, tight ends, and anything across the middle.
Yes, that is one of the biggest issues, and I think corner they just kept going heavy with safeties and corners, and they thought all the pass rushers that they had, and like Chandler Jones, with the exception of Max Crosby, that can get after the quarterback, and they kind of, get those coverage sacks, or if not a coverage sacks, pressured sacks, and slow down those wide receivers. But there's a lot of what ifs, dating back to 2020 and 2021. So, but yeah, fixing that front seven is most important. You got to get
Uh,
after the quarterback, man. It's
and
that simple.
and I really think that it's not even just the front seven. Yes, they got to address the linebacker and get better there, which they can do. They can do going moving forward. I much prefer Antonio Pierce's eyes on linebackers. And wow, that's that. They loud out there. They getting crunk where
Yes,
you
I'm
at,
about
huh?
this. Yes, yes. So, and my battery's about to die, but I want to tell you this. I got about 10% left.
All
I
right.
want to say this. Excuse me. Um, Mark Davis is currently, looking at what the Vegas Golden Knights are doing. His Las Vegas Aces, what they're doing. All he's seeing is winning and winning and winning. So,
Mm-hmm.
eventually that rubs off um, on a guy who didn't have a lot of success with his NFL team. So when you see the Golden Knights win a championship, you know, and three, and the Aces win two and three championships all within 2 years, you start to look like, is it me or is it the product on the field? And at the end of the day, Mark Davis, he needs to make a decision to get rid of that salary cap, improve that roster, and he doesn't need to rush his decisions when he hires a new GM or a new head coach.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to take time. He needs to stay current with the current offensive coordinators who are coming up with amazing schemes that are averaging 30 points a game. You have to find a defensive coordinator who can maintain 17, 20 points per game on the defensive side. And so, like I said, you have to find a guy who knows his job, then to have the players execute their job. And it's not that
Mm-hmm.
easy. And also, what's the most important ingredient? A quarterback.
So as you brought up O'Connell, I'll say this about that because I know you got 10%, so I'll make it quick. You need to see O'Connell was not helped out by his coach. The fact that his coach continued to allow Khalil Mack be single blocked by a person who couldn't block him was a fireable offense. There's no reason why they shouldn't have had somebody to chip, somebody to help slide. bootleg something, and to get some relief from the pressure. What Aiden O'Connell needs is pass protection and time. He's proven to go through his reads, his progressions, make accurate decisions, make good throws, even though he doesn't have the greatest arm either. But he can stand in the pocket. He's a monument back there. He's not running away from anybody or showing the least iota of elusiveness or pocket awareness. But as long as he can have a clean pocket, an opportunity to throw the ball, I fully expect that the rest of his skill position superstars are going to pick him up. I think that the Raiders blow the doors off the Giants on Sunday.
I agree with that. And here's the thing. I watched Aiden O'Connell during Raiders training camp, practices. He has a very solid arm. He has an NFL arm. He can make all the parameter throws. He can throw the
Mhm.
ball down the field, you know,
How
and
far?
he can throw 50 yards easy, 60 yards easy. But the thing is, you got to get him in the right system. And I tell you this: a fireable offense is offering Jimmy Garoppolo $70+ million contract on 3 years to
Fireable
get him up.
offenses,
Yeah.
fireable offense for sure.
Yes.
I'm not going to speak. I'm not going to speak ill of those no longer on the team, but that certainly was another one.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, listen, Phil, thank you for having me on, man. I'm looking forward to catch up with you. Again, we'll get you on our show very soon too. And hey, Raider Nation, remain patient. Greatness doesn't happen overnight. It takes time.
There it is. It does not happen overnight. It takes time. Mike Dixon, site expert of Vegas Sports Today. Thank you for your time, sir. This has been a great conversation, and I look forward to you coming back and doing this again.
I'm looking forward to it. Remember, Josh McDaniels was a boss. Antonio Pierce is a leader. You need a leader to lead men. And that's what you look for in that head coach. Thank you, Phil. I'll catch up with you guys soon.
Take care, brother. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Dixon. So let's yeah. Looking at with that being said, you look at just the clips you've seen from practice. So I made comments about the PR spin being in full effect. You come out with that fire, that straight heat from the social media team. Then you see a video of the players in there playing basketball. They out there having WWE wrestling matches in the locker room. Guys are having fun. Guys are relaxed. There's a whole different atmosphere about what's going on. They don't look stiff and robotic. Guys are talking trash to each other, doing all of the things that show camaraderie, that show focus, not necessarily focus, but togetherness, all pulling on the same edge from the rope. If Antonio Pierce is the difference and making this all possible, putting them at ease, getting them comfortable while knowing what they expect, while maintaining that swag the moment they get out the damn tunnel, then you already know what it is because he launched practice was straight out of Compton, and if you believe that that wasn't a PR setup, then I got beachfront property in March for you. Whoever it is that's pulling the strings on what they're doing in terms of trying to make over the image, present the Raiders in a much different light, it looks amazing. You're doing an excellent job. Keep doing it. Have the Raiders continue, but I need to, in order for this to be a complete thing, we need to see this on the field. And I really honestly truly believe that you will. And if they don't, well then it is what it is. You want, in order to get a top quarterback to improve your situation the most, because this is a quarterback driven league. And if you don't have a quarterback, it honestly doesn't matter what you do. This defense is not good enough. As good as they are, they're not good enough to overcome bad quarterback play. 3-5. Jimmy throwing more interceptions than touchdowns, more interceptions than anyone else, despite playing 2.5 less games. He's been awful, god awful, terrible, horrific, way worse than I imagined he would be. And if you want to talk about completion percentage, I mean, he never throws past 10 to 15 yards anyway. If he does, he's airmailing it out of bounds and throwing it nowhere near a receiver who's got nobody around him for at least 15 yards. So you Brian Hoyer was equally trash. The man has got 0 wins in his last 13 outings. That's almost a full season of losing. So you got a 4th round draft pick who looks better than both of your 1 and 2s just because he scans the field and isn't afraid to take a hit. Now, I don't know if that's because he's young and dumb or he's just not afraid to take a hit and go out there and play the game the way that he needs to play in order to be successful. But so far, the Raiders are striking all the right chords. It looks good. It sounds good. They appear to be loose. It's all pointing in an upward trend. The ownership has identified the major issues with his franchise. A change at quarterback was needed regardless of who was the coach, but you needed to get a better turnout than what you had, for sure. So it is what it is in that aspect. So Q, DB Cooper, I said that I expect the Giants to get smacked, straight smashed. Did Hoyer ever being up? I mean, Stiddy was a backup. To let Stiddy go and pay Jimmy all that money was a fireable offense. It just was. But that is what I got for you guys today. We're going to continue to monitor what's going on, and might go live tomorrow, might not. We'll see what the news cycle brings us. So thank you for your guys' time. Please give me an unfiltered salute, like it, subscribe, share, tell a friend, do all of that stuff. That remember, and if you listen to the press conference with Champ Kelly and Antonio Pierce, it would appear that Champ fucks with the unfiltered truth tough, because he said he was giving everybody the truth directly, raw and uncut. And if you've been with me for as long as this has been going on, you know I got that on the shirt, the unfiltered truth, raw and uncut. I'm Phil Robinson. This is the Unfiltered Truth. Thank you for joining.
This is 1 word, 2 syllables. Ridiculous, right?